Hey, I just got back from lunch. Did you finish that report yet?
Well, not exactly. Still working on it. I'm not finished just yet. I got a little sidetracked, but I will get them to you first thing this afternoon.
It is first thing this afternoon.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but I mean, I am working on
But
it. I'll have.
what do you mean that the report isn't finished yet?
I'm still in the process of working on it. I've just been a little distracted.
Distracted. Our meeting starts in an hour.
I can have it.
No. What were you doing? Were you listening to another hunting podcast again? I swear, I give the staff in this office the freedom to do whatever they want to do as long as they meet a deadline. That is the first bullet underneath your job description. Pays attention to detail and deadlines. And deadlines. With emphasis Dude, are you even listening to me right now?
Welcome to episode 105 of the Whitetail Distraction Podcast. My name's Austin, and joining me in my basement, Charles Hedlund. How you doing, buddy?
This sounds a little creepy if you think about it. Like, you got me in your basement.
I
We're
do.
recording a podcast.
Okay.
This glow light's on right now. Like, where's the casting couch, bud?
That back room back there. Let's check it out.
Hey, follow me this way.
Yeah, come check out this back room. It's very well lit.
Guys, if you're not aware, this is a late night introduction that we are adding after the fact.
Yes, it's good. Don't even worry about it.
It's going to be real nice.
We've been trying some radio voices like just absolute dipshits because we got some new microphones, and I'm really enjoying it.
This is crisp, man.
It's pretty good. Pretty good.
I hope we sound as good as what it sounds like right now in my ears.
I don't know. Probably
on the
not.
other end.
Probably
Well,
not.
when we edit this tomorrow, we'll figure it out.
I like it.
So we have Joey Bell on today.
Joey Bell. I'm really excited for this one. We had a really good conversation with him. I enjoyed it. We covered like some seriously awesome topics.
This one goes deep, boys and girls. This one goes all over the place, but it's so turkey related. It's conservation. It's habitat. Like
There's
touch all
out
of it.
west hunting. Like I laughed. I cried. I had emotional damage. Like,
You don't even need the soundboard.
oh, freaking hilarious, man.
That was actually pretty damn good. Like, that was pretty good. But we got to keep this short. We got to reel it in. We got to
reel it in.
We got to touch on our partners real quick. We got to hammer them out because this episode's a little bit longer.
What kind of people make this podcast possible?
Well, first and foremost, I'd like to thank Scree Gear, because Scree Gear, without them, we're not getting out there in some of the more extreme weather, and we're not getting it done. Because
Absolutely. Extreme mountain gear, man.
Absolutely. They have some turkey bundles going on right now. Check it out. If you buy their turkey bundles, they throw in a free pot call.
Awesome. It's awesome too. It looks really cool. It's got the freaking it's a glass call. It's got their logo on it. Freaking sweet.
It's
an
real
awesome
sweet.
deal. And you know, the bundles, it's if you want to get into Scree Gear, it's one of the best ways to get into it. I'm not going to ramble on about this. Use the code WDP20. Get yourself 20% off your first purchase.
There you go. Next.
VIP Archery. I finally got it right. Almost.
Almost.
Almost. Guys,
Well.
go check out the Broadheads. We've been doing a lot more turkey content lately. Check out their new guillotines, guys. There's two different kinds. I think there's the Guillotine X, and then there's like the regular guillotine. Check them out. They're all new, redesigned. They're absolutely bad to the bone. If you want to get out there and shoot one with your bow, I'm definitely going to try it this year. Why not just shoot a freaking turkey's head off? I mean, how freaking cool is that? We'll see.
That would be pretty cool. It's actually a goal of ours. This year is to get one with the bow. Not my personal goal, but I think Joe is down. He said he wants to get one with the bow real bad.
I'm on top.
I know you do. So we'll see. We got to get the right property and the right setup.
We'll get her done. I think we can.
do
I think
it.
we manage.
And that's not the only broadhead, guys. There's no better time right now than to get yourself loaded up when you're building arrows. Go get you some VIP Archery's new broadheads. They have 3-blade designs, 4-blade design, 2-blade designs. Go check them all out on their brand new website. They have inserts. They have field tips. They got it all. It's a one-stop shop now. Build your arrows right there on the website.
That leads us right into out on a limb manufacturing. I'm using the Ridge Runner. You got the one stick.
with the Monarch
with
platform.
the Monarch platform. Absolutely freaking awesome. Guys, if you want to get into the saddle game or the tree stand game or the mobile game in general, they just have the best products, hands down. Like American made right in Oklahoma. Matt Garris is absolutely the man. Go check him out. He's running sales all the time. He goes on social media, does lives constantly. He really likes to talk to people. Reach out to him, talk to him if you have an idea floating around in your head. I'm sure he can make it come to fruition.
Yeah. It's show season right now.
Yep.
Check him out at the shows. He was just at NWTF. He was in Harrisburg. There is a sale going on this weekend because he's at a show. And guys, take advantage when these sales come up because he's got the bob out right now. He's got some new stuff. He's got the camera arm. I mean, pretty much anything you need for hunting, mobile hunting, that's the guy to go to.
Absolutely. Check him out. Right into A&F Custom Calls, guys. Use our deal. Use our code WDP. Get yourself some free shipping on some awesome freaking mouth calls. He does a couple different cuts: combo cut, V cut, ghost cut, Batwing. Okay,
Yeah,
a couple different tensions, hunter and competition. You know, guys, check him out. So many different styles that he has.
Yeah, I talked to Cal, and he basically said if you were a new person on his website looking on what to buy, he suggests getting one call of each tension to find what you like the best. He's got the hunters, the bossy hen, and the competition style call. So I personally like the competition. It's a lot tighter tension. I like the Batwing call the best, and now my new favorite might be the ghost cut. So guys, check them out. And you will not be disappointed. Also, $1 from every call that he sells goes directly towards the Allegheny National Forest. Last but not least, we got to thank New Canoe, man.
New Canoe. You're running the Unlimited.
Yep. I'm looking forward to getting the Unlimited out. It's almost bass season.
It is almost bass season. I'm really excited about that too.
Might be using it to haul some turkey out. We'll see. But
Ooh.
I'm feeling frisky, and I want to get that thing on the water.
I like it.
That's all we got. We got to get Joey on, man. This is exciting stuff.
Let's bring him on.
All right, guys, we are here with the Tennessee Turkey Terminator. That's what I'm going to start calling him. Yeah, I know my paper says Phenom, and that could be accurate as well. But we have Joey Bell on here. We have a good Southern boy from Tennessee who loves killing turkeys, eats, sleeps, breathes turkey hunting. Joey, what's going on, man?
Not much, man. I'm on the road this week for work, as I am many weeks, but I'm excited to talk turkeys for the rest of the night if need be. I'm not at home with my wife, so I can talk until daylight. So let's go, man.
I can see this stuff get you fired up as it does us.
Yeah, dude, it bit me, when I was in high school or so, and I got a pretty good story about that, for when we get to that, but yeah, it's just I haven't been bit by the whitetail bug like a lot of guys have, and that's 100% my fault. I grew up hunting a lot of private land, and I would just sit in a deer stand and just wait for deer. I just never got involved with it. But turkeys, when I really started hunting them, I just fell in love with it, and I've been taking it to another level, I guess, every year after year, and learning new things, and I can't get enough of it. I think about it 24/7.
Well, I mean, let's run with that, man. You said a little bit about how you're out of town for work. Why don't we jump right into a quick introduction and just kind of who you are, what you do for work, and I guess we already mentioned where you're from, but we can just bring us back and take us to little Joey up.
Yeah, I grew up on a farm in Middle Tennessee in Hickman County in the middle of nowhere. My dad was a full-time farmer. Mother worked at the Levi's plant in town. I'm about as average as they come in all aspects of life, except for my wife outkicked my coverage there. My wife, Krista. And then I'm also a dad to my daughter, Jolene, and I got another one coming in June, a baby boy.
Oh, man,
we're
congratulations.
looking forward to that.
It's awesome. You
Thank
planned
you
that
very
really
much.
well, by the way.
So,
Good job.
hey, I'm telling you, here's the first tip of the podcast. Don't conceive children in June, July, or August if you like to go turkey hunting, because you don't want any births in March, April, or May. So that's tip number 1 for the podcast.
Yeah, I'm part of the Bad Timing Award. Right before our whitetail season, I had my second daughter, so she came right at the end of September. I was just screwed, man.
Yeah, my daughter was born at the end of August. And so if I was a whitetail guy, those early seasons just got squashed right then and there. But yeah, having kids in June and August, that's fine with me, and we're done after that. So I'm good. I'm golden. I can coast from there.
2 for 2. I like it, man.
Yeah, so I went to college at Middle Tennessee State there in Murfreesboro, and I got a degree in concrete industry management. It's a bachelor's degree that they offer there. And that took me after graduation up to Northern Virginia, where I worked for an airfield paving company. We paved taxiways and runways and stuff like that on all the airports and Air Force bases in the Mid-Atlantic. And after a few years there, I took my current job, which is a business development manager for a clay company that makes clay additives for various industries, paint, adhesives, ceramics, and we have one product for concrete, and that's what I deal with. So I deal strictly with the concrete market. So I'm up here I was up at our corporate office this week for work, doing some work in the lab, and most of the time I'm on the road at various parts of the country. I don't really have a set territory, visiting customers and doing, product demos or something on a construction site or just assisting customers or you name it. We're out there doing it. So that's where I'm at now, man.
Heck yeah, dude. Heck yeah. And you just had a stint with BHA as well, and there's some pretty exciting news to come out of your state and with BHA and everything. Do you want to cover that real quick?
Yeah, I first got involved with BHA in 2017 or 18. I think 2017, I started out as like a state captain, and then 2018, I became a state chair, and then 2019, Tennessee actually broke off from the Southeast chapter and created our own chapter. So I was chapter chair for them for up until January 1st of this year. And when I stepped away, my term was up in May, but I just mentioned, we're having a baby in June, and I travel a lot. I'm on the road, so I just felt like I didn't have the time to properly do that job, and I stepped away from it and let somebody much more adequate that had more time for it. And I'm glad that I did, because you mentioned there were a couple things that happened just here in the last couple months of 2022, that really required their attention. And the biggest one was Yanali WMA. And if you follow anybody, any of the Southeast-based chapters of BHA, they spread the word really fast. And I actually think that the Tennessee chapter was the first conservation organization that broke the news about Yanali. Yanali was in danger of getting turned over to the county, and they were going to strip TWRA of the management of that property. And our first reaction was, we didn't know of any county in Tennessee that had the manpower or anything in their budget to manage a WMA properly, let alone a 10,000 acre one. So we sent our emails and sent our voicemails to the right people and on all of our representatives, and we got that squashed within a few weeks. So kudos to the current chapter of Tennessee BHA. Those guys kicked ass and got the word out, and I think everybody in the Southeast, anybody that come across that issue on social media, contacted whatever representative they had in their region and let their voices be heard. So that was excellent work by those guys.
Yeah,
that's a serious win.
Mm-hmm. I know I was seeing some things going around even up our way, people that wanted to give out information of who to contact, who to reach out to, basically, and just voice your opinion how we don't want the House bill and the state bill to go through. And thank goodness for a win for conservation, a win for us hunters and the people that enjoy that land. So that was awesome, man. It's good to see wins on our side. We make up a small percentage of the population, and when we can make big wins like that, that's one more that we pushed from encroaching on what we do. I guess not as a living,
absolutely.
But what we do.
I've got before we start recording, like I said, I got some notes here, and the representation of hunters in relation to the U.S. population is something we can discuss later. But it does go to show that we are the minority in most every aspect of the population, but we can be the loudest and we can make a difference. And I think if every hunter in America just sent an email or attended a commission meeting or something once a month, that's got to help us dramatically in terms of getting things done for us.
Pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
Pretty badass. All right. So I want to jump into something else now. we're talking turkeys, and turkeys is going to be the main focus, but we can't just pass that he's killed a Montana mule deer.
No,
right?
I mean we gotta help out our little whitetail listeners and our deer hunters and everything like that. Just give them like a little taste, and then we'll hop right back into the
I
turkey.
agree. So you had some success, man. Some success in Montana. You had some success in Tennessee. I guess we need to talk about your deer season. Okay, I know Austin loves deer hunting still.
I do very much so. I love turkey hunting too, but like
I love deer hunting
Yeah,
too.
it's
We
tough.
we have to. We can't just go all turkey. I guess we have to ease our way into this. We're dipping our toes.
Well, the Tennessee deer wasn't much of a story. It was one of those, like I said, I kind of ruined myself deer hunting growing up. You know, the deer I killed in Tennessee, he just walked by at the right time, and I honestly, hey, I hunt out of a box blind when I hunt my farm. I ain't even gonna lie about it. I sit up there and I watch animals and critters, and I might shoot a deer every now and then. And that one just happened to walk by, and he got me excited. So that was basically the story of the whitetail. But I talk smack on deer hunters all the time, just because I like to talk smack. But I do love to go out west and deer hunt, just because there's a lot of walking. The scenery is gorgeous. It's just so different, than the deer hunting we do here in the east. And so my buddy Jacob actually kind of arranged this trip. His father is from Montana, and he's getting pretty old up in age, and he wanted to take him on a good mule deer hunt, before he got too old to do anything else. And so we went up there. There was myself and Jacob and his dad and a couple other guys, and we all had buck tags. And everybody everybody except Bob, Jacob's dad, got a buck, but we all got bucks, and everybody else, I think a couple other guys picked up a couple doe tags, so we got a couple does, and it was just a fun week out there, just riding around. We were hitting a bunch of different spots, doing a lot of glassing. Saw some rutting action out there when we were out there, so that was pretty cool. See mule deer, fighting and whatnot. So it was just a blast. If the deer hunting I do, I like to go out west and do it. It's just fun to me.
Yeah, I can dig that, man. Is that like one of your first Western trips, or is that something you've been doing for a while?
We've been out there a handful of times now. My first trip out there, I think, was in 2018. I think that's right, 2017 or 18. Went on an antelope hunt out there and got an antelope, and then the year after that, Jacob and I went back out there. We were going to do a backcountry hunt for a week or a handful of days, and we ended up getting a foot of snow dumped on us after the first night, and like not made it off the mountain. That's a whole nother story there about not getting off the mountain and about running out of gas and getting stuck in a spot for like 4 hours. It was a mess. So we come off the mountain and ended up getting a couple whitetail doe and some antelope doe instead of the cow, elk, and mule deer tags that we had in our pockets. But had a lot of fun, and then went out west to Montana this past year. And we've been out there. We went out to Wyoming in 2021 turkey hunting, and then we went to Oklahoma the year before that, and Nebraska the year before that. So we like to go out there. I mean, it's just different. It's a different landscapes. The scenery is gorgeous, like I said before, and a lot of birds. Most places got a lot of birds, and the pressure's not as bad. So we like to go out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it out west, man. I don't get out there as much as I used to, but there's something special about it out there. I've never done any turkey hunting out there.
Yeah.
Maybe in the future. I don't know. I'll make it work, maybe.
Yeah, we got some things planned.
Yeah, we'll get some stuff going.
Selfishly, we had to circle back to turkey, right?
We're back on turkeys now.
That was quick. Well done, Joey. Well done. But dude, hunting turkey out west, this is going to be, I mean, we did Oklahoma this past spring. That was a blast. Oh my God. What an unbelievable trip. So much fun. We all killed birds. We had an absolute blast. Got on a ton of birds. But we're doing Montana this year. Me and you were talking about that a little bit. And selfishly, man, Merriam's, I've never seen them. I've never, other than watching them on TV, I've never heard them. Don't know their behavior. What's the difference? Because you're a hardcore Eastern hunter, right? And what's the difference here when I got to deal with Merriam's? This is selfishly my question.
So Merriam's, in my experience, when they fly off that roost in the morning, they hit the ground and they walk pretty much all day long. They just cover immense amount of ground all day, and they may even circle back to that same roost tree that they pitched out of in the morning. But in my experience, you can hear them from a long ways away, and those Merriams do like to gobble. But don't think that just because they like to gobble that they're going to come running in every time you call, like some of those people you've seen on TV. He's liable to gobble the entire time he's walking a mile away from you, and he'll continue to gobble until he's out of earshot. So you have to treat him, and I think just like you would any turkey, here in the East. And if he's in the right mood, if you can get him fired up, and if you can get him gobbling to you and searching for you, then I think you got more chips in your pile. And that's turkeys are going to be turkeys, regardless of where they are. Just because they gobble and yodel, whatever they do out west,
That is a
they'll
funny
still
ass
school you,
gobble.
man. Yeah, they sound like barnyard birds, but I mean they'll still get you torqued up, man, because
Oh yeah.
they just like to do it so much, and the sound carries, so you can hear them from a long ways away. But it's just a blast out there.
Yeah. What are some of those terrain challenges compared to what you face around here?
Well, depending on where you go, Miriam's, you have those up in northwest Nebraska where they don't really have mountains; it's more hills, so the terrain's not too terrible out there. But then they do live up in the mountains, like in Wyoming or in Montana, Colorado, that whole area out in the west there. So as far as terrain, like I said, the same thing kind of applies to the back east. Look for that diverse habitat, those creek bottoms or river bottoms. Look for that kind of, I guess that outlying habitat. Like for instance, back east, I see, if you have a big expanse of hardwoods, and on a satellite map, it just looks like a big expanse of hardwoods. But maybe if you turn your topo on, or something, and you can see water, you can see river bottoms, just look for something that's out of the ordinary. Well, I think the same can apply to out there. When you're looking at an aerial map of, just pick a state, and it just looks brown, just brown prairie or rolling hills or just
Yeah, a lot of it
whatever,
looks the same.
yeah, kind of focus on those creek drainages and where that water is, because you'll have trees there and there's more food there. And just cover ground. If you don't know how to do anything else, you know how to walk, so you can walk and see a long way, and you can eventually find turkeys.
That's good advice.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Put miles on the boots.
Yeah.
Got to get in shape, I guess. It's not great advice.
I would think you, yeah, probably.
He's telling me I got to walk. You mean I can't just shoot him out of the car? Come on, man. No,
I think you can in a couple states. I don't think they frown too much on road hunting in a few spots. So I don't know. You might still be in good shape.
Oh, that's hilarious. No, it's about the experience for sure. And I think that's one of the things when you go out there, you're looking for the experience more than just the hunt. And I look forward to it for sure. For sure. All right. That was my selfish rant. But, dude, you did have a heck of a spring season, and you did kill a bird out there. So I guess it's still relevant. I want you to talk a little bit about your Wyoming trip, because you did end up getting one down.
Yeah, when we went out there, you really have to watch the weather. And we went out there in the middle of April. And I think I've heard a couple guys say this. Anytime you go out west before May 1st, anything can happen. And so when you go after May 1st, the chances of a foot of snow getting dropped on you, drop kind of significantly. I mean, there's still the chance that it happens. But when we went out there, that exact thing happened. We had a lot of snow get dumped on us overnight. And so it made hunting really hard, or at least hard to me, because I don't know anything about hunting turkeys in the snow. But before the snow came, we were able to just cover a lot of ground. And we finally stumbled upon one with some hens, and there wasn't much of a story to him. He had his hens and he was pretty content with them, but we dropped down into a creek bank and closed the distance on him and got out in front of him, and we basically bushwhacked him. So there wasn't much to that one. When we went out to the Black Hills, we killed that first one kind of over in the Bighorn Mountains, and then we went over to the Black Hills, and again it was just a whole lot of snow. And the biologist I talked to out there said, hey, they're still turkeys. They're still going to do what they want to do, even in the snow. And I'm not saying he's wrong, but I am saying that we hardly heard any turkeys while that snow was falling on us. And it was tough hunting out there. We walked a lot, finally got on some tracks later in the week, and the weather was starting to break. It was starting to warm up, and snow was getting gone. And I think the evening before we had to leave, we finally got on birds, but we couldn't call them across property line over on the public. So I still think, had we had another day or two out there, we probably could have killed a couple more birds, but we just came away with that one. So we got some unfinished business out there that we'll have to go back for.
That's awesome. I can actually personally attest to how crazy the weather is in Wyoming. I was actually out there on my birthday one year, right in the middle of August. We were up on top of a mountain, and it started snowing in August. It was crazy. The sun was shining, and a big swarm of black flies came through. It was absolutely miserable, and then it started snowing. Pretty wild, man.
It's like the end of the world.
It's crazy.
Black flies.
Yeah, it was
swarm
weird,
of
man.
Flies, and then snow in August.
Literally, we had a snowball fight on my birthday. It was weird.
Well, we did have a year here
Ain't
though.
about that life.
Yeah, we had a year here. It was in May. It was well into May, and we had probably 2 inches fall on us while we were turkey hunting up my camp, not too far from here. And I ended up getting a bird that day.
Yeah.
In the snow. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I've actually killed 2 birds with snow on the ground, which is insane. That should never happen. It's supposed to be so nice when you turkey hunt. I don't know where that went, man. Global warming just isn't doing it for us.
Yeah, thanks, Obama.
Yeah. I've been hunting, even down home in Tennessee, in the middle of April, and that right cold front comes through and it'll spit snow on you right there in the middle of April. So it can do anything anywhere, I guess, in before May. So
Absolutely
I
wild,
don't
man.
know. I don't like it. I want like 65 and overcast every day.
Yeah, I like a little cooler than that. I like the overcast. Little slight breeze.
I'm talking like 65 a high. You wake up, it's like 52.
Yeah.
Warms up to 65.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, there was, I think it was a couple years ago, we had like just the same weather forever and ever and ever. And I was just like waiting. We needed a rain or something to throw them off because the birds weren't acting right. None of them were gobbling. Nobody wanted to talk. They didn't want to act like turkeys. And it wasn't until we got some actual rain when they started you could actually drive around, find them in fields, call them in, and they started acting like turkeys again. It was just weird. I remember that. It was like 9 days straight of the same weather. And then finally a front came in and the whole season changed. It's crazy. Have you seen stuff like that, Joey?
I mean, there's been times when I remember when we went out to Oklahoma, it wasn't the weather. It was just the area of the state we were in. And that's another piece of advice I give to everybody. When you go, if you got a week and you go somewhere, be pretty flexible about where you can go and don't be 100% committed to an area. We went to one part of Oklahoma and we spent a day and a half there, maybe heard one gobble and saw one hen and maybe a couple tracks. So it just wasn't happening. So we just pulled up stakes, literally we were camping and moved to another part of the state. And we finally found some birds and we were able to close the week out and kill a few birds. So even if it's not the weather, or if it is the weather, you got the weather all over the state and they're still not cooperating in one part, I'd just go to another part because a couple hours away could just make the world of difference on how birds are acting.
So would you consider yourself a pretty mobile turkey hunter?
Yeah, and I think that's what drew me to it versus deer hunting was just being able to get up and walk around and call, and I don't know, I guess my ADHD would kick in and I just need to go walk somewhere. So, and I think it's helped and hurt, depending on the day, but it's just more exciting. And this is the same reason I go out west, for deer hunting. It's a lot of walking and, it's just different. I'm just not one to sit in the same place, all day. Even on turkeys, I hate waiting on turkeys to show up. And, I'll spend an hour or 2 hours around the spot and I'll leave. I'll go somewhere else.
Yeah. No, I can dig that. And that kind of goes into like, you said you got kind of like bit by like the bug going out there. The turkey bug, man. I'm curious how it kind of all started for you. Like, is it something that you started off at a young age? Is that something your dad did or, some uncles or, how did that kind of come about with you? You're in the southern state. I mean, southern tradition with turkey hunting is huge.
Yeah. And even in Tennessee, I don't think we really have the culture that, Mississippi or Alabama has.
Right.
I think they have it way worse than we do as far as the amount of people that love it. I didn't get into turkey hunting until I think I was 15 or so when I killed my first turkey. And it was actually my agriculture teacher in high school that got me started in it. I remember he was bringing his calls to class or whatever, and he was like, I don't know, conditioning pop call or box call or something. He'd just be tinkering around with them, messing with them during, downtimes or whatever in the class. And I just got to talking to him, and he came out to the farm that we had one morning, and we got some turkeys gobbling, and we never got on any birds, but I don't know, just hearing them gobble, and like I said before, kind of being mobile and going to different places, and it was just something different than the deer hunting I was used to, and I'd quail hunted with my dad and everything else. It was just something different. And when I killed my first turkey, after that I just tried to hunt turkeys like we hunted deer. I built built ground blinds in the edge of fields, and I would just wait for turkeys. But I still had my box call. I was still trying to call turkeys, and I didn't know anything about anything. And I eventually looked up, killed a Jake or something with it was a 20 gauge Belgium Browning with squirrel shot or whatever number 6 shot that we had rolling around in the drawer, at home. I remember shooting that thing, and I'd never seen somebody kill a turkey. I didn't even know what they did. So I shot this turkey and it started flopping, and raising all kinds of cane. Well, in my eyes, I thought it was about to jump up and run off. So I basically emptied the chamber on this Jake flopping around on the ground. And then I was sitting there, I was out of shells, and I was just watching this bird still flopping, and I didn't really know what to do until he finally quit. But, it wasn't until maybe a couple of seasons after that I really fell in love with turkey hunting. And I had started watching, I was watching Michael Waddell and, the Real Tree Guys and the Drurys and the Kings of Spring and whatever else I could get my hands on. And, back then you could watch hunting on TNN and ESPN or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I got to watching how actual turkey hunting went. And I bought me a leafy suit, and I got this I saved up some money, and I got one of those Pretty Boy decoys. Y'all maybe remember them. Those big giant strutter decoys. I guess it was the first one that they ever come out with. And I got that in a lay down hen, and it come in this. It looked like a laundry sack, just a big mesh sack. And I'd carry that thing across the field or whatever going hunting, and I'd look like Santa Claus walking across the field with this giant bag of decoys.
I still have one.
And they worked, man. They did pretty good. And I remember setting this thing up in one of the fields that we had on one of the cattle farms that we had rented. And I was had my leafy suit on. And I think I'd gotten a 10 gauge single shot for a turkey gun, designated turkey gun. That thing had like a 32-inch full choke barrel. But I was just hunting, private land. I didn't have to carry that thing around anywhere. So I was set up there, and I was calling a little bit. I'd started practicing calling, and had my decoys set up. And this bird gobbled across the field, and I couldn't see across the field. There was like a rise in the middle of the field, and it was like 300 yards across or whatever. And this bird gobbled on the roost, and he pitched down, I guess, and he kept gobbling. And I could tell he was getting closer. And so I just started getting ready, and I eventually just saw his head poke up over the rise in the field. And it wasn't but a couple seconds after I saw his head, he like ran into my decoy spread. I mean, dropped feathers, sprinted into the decoy spread. And so when he got there, he started just making circles around this decoy, and then he started just beating the crap out of it. And so I'm just sitting there, didn't really know what to do at that point. I'd never seen nothing like this in real life. And I'm like, well, I either got to kill this thing, or he's going to tear up that fancy decoy I just bought. So I finally got him to stop enough to get a shot off, and I killed him. And oddly enough, something had pulled his beard out. So he had the spot on his breast where his beard was. And I don't know if it's coyote, no telling, but something had pulled that beard out. And I just remember that distinctly. But other than that, he was a big old bird, had big old spurs. And yeah, that was the thing that hooked me right then and there. And I ain't been the same ever since.
Yeah. That's a pretty good experience to get you hooked, man. Holy smokes. That's so weird that something pulled his beard out. Like, you got to think, like, when you pull beard out of a bird, you take, like, that plug out, basically. Like, you got to use some force to get that thing out. It's not just, like, chilling there. You know what I mean? Holy smokes.
It's not something like a possum.
Yeah, that's what made me think it was a coyote or something. Like, I don't think it was another turkey. Probably couldn't have pulled that thing out. It had to have been a coyote or bobcat or no telling what.
Yeah, man. Laid him out with that old 10 gauge. Holy smokes. I love that.
Was there anything left?
We still got that thing. It's still in the safe, but the barrel on that thing looked like a stovepipe. It was huge.
Yeah.
Oh man, that is awesome. I think one bird that did that. When they run in like that and they look like velociraptors.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They look like velociraptors. They drop and they're wiggling. They're running in full speed at you. That is the coolest stuff, man. I can definitely see how that would get you hooked just like that. But you didn't have anyone else though, like other than your teacher, there was no other mentor. You kind of were more or less self-taught throughout the whole process.
Yeah, because my dad grew up in Hickman County, there where we live, where he lives now. And let's see, he was born in '43, and he went in the army like early '60s, I think. Before he turned right when he turned 17, he lived with his grandparents. His grandparents signed him up to go to the army when he was 17. But anyway, like when he left for the army in the '60s, there were no deer, there were no turkeys, so he didn't have any interest. He didn't have any exposure to any of that. And then he went to the army, got married to my mother, and they lived in Florida through the mid late '60s and a couple of years into the '70s, and then they moved back. And I'd actually asked him about this not too long ago. When he got back up to Tennessee in the '70s, there were deer, weren't any turkeys yet. So he started deer hunting a little bit, but long story short, no, there really wasn't anybody that I knew that turkey hunted that much. And like I said, my ag teacher, he took me a couple times, never got on any birds with him though, but I don't know, it was kind of self-taught, and I just was constantly watching whatever videos I could get my hands on, constantly tinkering with calls. And I don't know, it was something different too, that, everybody else was a deer hunter, growing up, and it was just something different that I could do that, I don't know, nobody else was really doing.
Yeah. That's pretty cool too, man. I can think talking, like hearing you talk about your dad, and then there were no turkeys back then. Talking to like my older uncle, my Uncle Bob, actually, you talk to him, he can remember the first time he saw a turkey track, he was like flabbergasted by it. That whole generation, like
Yeah.
when turkeys started coming around, like if somebody saw one, like they went and told all their neighbors and everything, but I saw a turkey,
Yeah.
it's just a
Yeah.
weird thing. And that's something that we haven't experienced because turkeys have always been around in my
Yeah.
time. I mean,
A lot of them too, turkeys and deer. Yeah,
yeah.
but he's right. Where his uncle lives, my dad used to live right down the street, basically through the woods from him, and he used to tell me all the time, if they saw a deer track, it was like you called all your relatives over, and they just come look at this. You got to see this. It's a deer track.
Mhm.
To them, it was like all the deer and everything were up the mountains. Everything's up the mountains, right? You got to drive 2 hours to go get on, and there's a ton of deer. There's tons of deer up there, but nothing was around here, and I couldn't imagine growing up in that era where you didn't have turkeys or deer to chase.
No.
Especially like near you. You had to do it the way they did it, like once a year, first day of rifle, you're up at camp with your whole family, for which we still do.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
something we do, maybe a couple weekends out of the year. But I couldn't imagine not like being able to hunt 20 minutes from here, 30
Yeah.
minutes from
So
here,
weird.
before work, going out and
Yeah.
hunting for like 2-3 hours. I do that all the time now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Really cool
Yeah.
influence too, having your ag teacher kind of get you into it a little bit, and like you getting your interest, kind of him tinkering around with calls and stuff. That's really cool.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think every year I've either done something different, or I've tried to do something different. I I think I tried to bow hunt turkeys, I think for a couple times one year. I squashed that pretty quick. But just here in the last few years, I really started hunting public a lot more, and basically trying to step my game up there, and trying to wean myself off of decoys and just doing different things just to try to keep your game up. I think if you just hunt one way and do things one way for years on end, then it gets monotonous. It'll get boring. If I kept doing like I was doing at first, if I kept just building a blind on the edge of the field and shooting turkeys as they walk by, I probably would have hung that up, after a handful of years.
Yeah.
But instead, I tried to do something different, and I still do that today. Like I said, public land, and then I travel. Like I said, I'm as average as they come. I've got a Monday through Friday job. I hunt on the weekends, and I take a week off in the spring, and I go turkey hunting somewhere. My buddy Jacob goes with me. So, just going to different places and being exposed has done nothing but help me. Even in Nebraska and in Wyoming, where we're hunting Merriam's, where that terrain is totally different than what we have back here, but there are still things that I pick up there that I can use back home, and vice versa. So I think traveling and hunting has made the biggest impact on how I do things anymore.
There's something to be said about being self-taught and then the number of experiences and learning as you go. I mean, there's something to be learned every year. Like you said, every turkey's different. And it's nice when you have 8 or 9 different methods to kill a turkey, because sometimes it takes till you get to that 8th method to finally close the distance and get it done.
Mm-hmm.
It is pretty
Yeah.
cool when you get to that point and okay, well, this worked on this bird. Let me try this. Or, let's
Yeah.
try this now because he's still hung up. Or maybe, you
Mm-hmm.
start to learn when they're with hens, and then, okay, got to get up and move on them. But you
Mm-hmm.
can throw all that out the window for your Tennessee season, because you had one method basically that got it done across the board. And I want to talk about it a little bit, because you tagged out in Tennessee. You get 3 tags and you killed 3 birds, which is unreal. Really cool, man, honestly. And I want to hear about it, because I put a little note here that roosted is roasted in 2021. So let's talk about it, man.
Well, I guess in my defense, or in whoever's defense, I didn't roost those birds. But I did kill them within a few minutes off the roost, each one of them. And a lot of that's luck. I'm not going to take a lot of credit for that. I mean, that bird could have been roosted, no telling where that morning, but he just happened to be there, and at each time. And the way that I killed those birds was they, all 3 of them were roosted on their various days on like that top third of the ridge, and they started gobbling a little bit before daylight, and it was still pretty good and dark. And so I was able to just close a lot of distance to those birds by just getting on the opposite side of the ridge and walking down through there. And because it was dark, they couldn't see me. I didn't really have to tiptoe, because, a little squirrel can sound like a 200-pound deer walking through the woods.
Yeah.
In the crunchy leaves. So they could have at least thought I was a squirrel or something, just stomping around down there. But that helped me a whole lot. Just, knowing that they couldn't see me and closing distance, I think that helped me more than anything. And that's another tip I give to anybody, is like, hey, if they can't see you and you're not making like a lot of human noise, if you're just stomping in the leaves, or if you're just walking, then they might not booger out, like you think. If they don't see you, then you can get pretty close. And that's exactly what I did. I got as close to those birds as I could without them seeing me. And it wasn't until I set up that I started calling to them. I called to the first couple birds, just like tree yelps, just basically letting them know that there was a hen there pretty close by. And I know that first bird that I killed there that first morning, there were some other hens like on down the ridge from where I was. And so I had it in my mind that I needed to be the first hen on the ground, and I didn't want those other hens to fly down and start playing their game and attract that gobbler to them. I wanted him to come to me. So, like I said, I did those, little tree yelps, super soft calling, and just scratching in the leaves. And I just took my hat off and I flapped it like I was flying to the ground, almost as soon as it broke, daylight. And it wasn't but a few minutes later, I heard that turkey that was gobbling fly down. And it was a few minutes later, he started walking. I could hear him walking up the ridge, and I was set up. I was pretty tight. I think I was like 20 yards away from that roll of the ridge, and it was early in season. I didn't have any cover really, so I just had to hope that he was going to come up right at my gun barrel, basically. And sure enough, he did. He walked right up, and he bobbed his head a couple times because he knew something was up, and then I was able to get a shot off and kill him. And the second bird was real similar to that. The third one, it was later in the season. I think it was after we got back from Wyoming. And so I had some more foliage on the trees. I was able to get close again. But this bird was up higher on the ridge. So I don't think I got as close as I probably could have, because I was afraid he was going to see me, if I got too close. But luckily the foliage was on the trees, and kind of the same thing, except I didn't even call to this bird. It was a bird I'm pretty confident that I had hunted the day before. He was on this. I showed up at like mid-morning to this spot the day before, and this bird was gobbling on this little finger of a ridge. He was gobbling for a couple hours, and I couldn't get him to do anything. He was pretty content just sitting right there and gobbling. And I couldn't creep up on him without him seeing me from, a certain amount of distance. So yeah, he got away from me that day. And the next morning, that's why I think it was this bird, because he was roosted right next to that finger. And so my thought was, if it's that bird, he's going to pitch off maybe come up to the top of this ridge and, gobble and maybe try to attract a hen. If that doesn't work, he's just going to hang out on this finger for another couple more hours. So I got as tight as I could to that bird without him seeing me, that I thought. And I didn't even call because I didn't know for certain if he could see me, because I didn't want to call and him be seeing me and he not have anything to look at. I didn't have any decoys out. And so I eventually just bit the bullet, and I just flattened my hat. And I was just hoping that, maybe that was just enough for him to know that a turkey flew off somewhere and that he couldn't really pinpoint me, I guess. So I don't know if that was the case or not, but that's all it took. I just flattened my hat and pretended like I was a hen on the ground, and I didn't even call after that either. And it wasn't but maybe a minute later, I saw that turkey fly off the roost. So I really did good on accident because I didn't know that turkey was there. I didn't know that turkey exactly was there. But if I had started calling and doing whatever, he probably would have picked me out, no problem. But he flew off the roost, and within a minute he had crept up that ridge, and I touched off on him, and that ended my season there. But yeah, that tactic worked really well, and that was the first time I'd killed that many turkeys off the roost in the same season. I think I've maybe done one or two in the years, previous to that. So it was just, I got a little aggressive and, just tried to close the deal, just by doing that.
I kind of like that. That's something maybe I'll kind of take, in the future for me. I know I get kind of nervous a lot of the time trying to push that bubble, but, I think that probably comes from a few times I've been going in kind of almost like, running behind in the morning, and you go in, it's kind of like that gray light, and you're creeping through, and you're trying to get to where you have in your mind where you want to be, and you just kind of glance up, and you can kind of see in the gray light, and there's the birds, and you're like right underneath them. You're like, oh no. That's kind of, I do like that tactic, but it's kind of screwed me a couple of times, and I get nervous pushing that bubble, but I do see it working really well.
Especially if you're crunched for time, I think you sometimes have to be that aggressive in my eyes, anyway. If you've got a couple hours, you want to close a deal. You're not out there to take sunrise pictures. You're out there to kill a turkey.
That's true.
So, especially like when Jacob and I travel for a week, and I think that's what it maybe gives us an advantage when we're on the road and we're turkey hunting. That's basically all we're there to do. We get up in the morning and we go and we go and we go and we cover ground, and we don't get back to, camp till that night. So we be aggressive. We know we only have a few days maybe after travel days or whatever. So I think in some situations, just being aggressive, you just have to swing for the fences sometimes.
Yeah, no, totally. I know I don't have a whole lot of time to hunt turkeys. I'm usually a weekend warrior, but if I do get out in the mornings before work, it's usually like that first sit. I got a little bit of time after fly down, and then I got a boogie to work. And I've got it done at I think the earliest I killed one year was 6:38 in the morning. It was just after sunrise, and it was perfect. But it doesn't usually happen that way. Especially around here, I have a lot better luck, that later morning area. But
kind of like our West Virginia trip where we were down to the wire. I think we killed that bird at noon, if I remember correctly, because the cutoff's 1 o'clock, West Virginia.
I think I shot that bird at 12:38 or something like that.
I know we were walking out, and we were wondering if we were going to make that 1 o'clock out of the field time, I think it is in West Virginia, the way they word it. It was down to the wire. We had just king shit over there on top of that hill. It was one big gobbler with his one hen, and he just would not stop going. But we were up against time, and it was funny. That story, we were making this stalk. We spotted that bird from 700 yards away, I think it was.
It was almost 800 yards.
Yeah, and we marked it on Onyx. It was literally all the way across these hills, and it gets real confusing on there sometimes because you start to drop down and you have cover, but then you got to get to the right spot and hope they're still there. And I remember we're making the stalk, and another bird gobbles, and we start to make a move on it, and then we sit down, and it's gobbling, making plenty of noise. So finally we realized that one's across a pretty severe creek.
Like a gorge almost.
Yeah. We're like, all right, that bird's not coming. Let's go see if that other one's still there. So it's an hour and a half long just stalk. And sure enough, that turkey's still there. And we end up having to get aggressive. We end up having to basically crawl up. He crawled up in front of me. I stayed back. and tried to call and get the hen to come in because I knew the gobbler wasn't moving.
No.
And finally that hen came
Mhm.
down over the hill and then got close enough, and the gobbler just the whole time I was freaking out because I'm kind of sitting out in the wood, like in the brush, but I'm farther out. So this turkey had to be like 30 yards from Austin, but he couldn't see it because he was tucked farther in the brush, another 50 yards in front of me in the angle. And I'm like, shoot him, shoot him. Meanwhile, I'm trying to film. I got about 2% battery left. I'm like, shoot him. What are you doing? We ended up getting the bird, man, but it was a lot of fun, and it just goes to show sometimes you got to go through all kinds of crazy shit to get one done
Yeah, man.
in a day. And it's nice when
Yeah.
you have all day. You know, Tennessee, you can hunt all day, right? And
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
now
Yeah,
with that
we
being
can hunt all day, and I've killed the majority. I killed the majority of my birds, midday, mid afternoon, or just whatever. And like I said, those 3 that I killed last year, and a couple more before that, were the only ones that I'd killed within a few minutes off a roost or right off the roost. So, and with that's actually that's helped us going out west too, or traveling and turkey hunting. Having the mindset of hunting all day. I mean, take breaks, and if you're riding around, stop and get you something to eat. You don't have to be in the same spot or little area all day long, I don't think. But just going from one spot to another and just hunting somewhere all day long, and that's helped us kill a few birds over the years.
I want to get into some of that travel and talk, but we had the Bayside Legion on. We just recorded with them, and they're going after the United States Super Slam. And it seems like slams are the big ticket item nowadays when you talk about turkey hunting, and more people are getting involved in turkey hunting. Do you have any slam goals where you stand currently?
Yeah, I want to get my Grand Slam, and I'm going to Mexico this year with Jay Scott for Goulds, and that'll be a step towards the Royal Slam. But other than that, I don't have any real interest in the U.S. Super Slam just yet. And I think it just goes back, I get burnt out on stuff real easy. And like I mentioned before, I didn't want to do the same thing, every turkey season, the same way or whatever. I don't want to ever just turn turkey hunting into work. Now, kudos to all those guys that are hitting 10 states every spring and everything like that. I think that's the coolest shit ever. But it's just, I'm just not wired for that just yet. I got a wife, a kid, and the wife is pregnant. And so I just don't have it in my mind to be gone every weekend. Now, maybe one day, when the kids get older and maybe that's something I want to pursue. But for now, I like taking off that week of every spring, and using a week of vacation time and just going somewhere and just seeing some new place. And like I said, I'm going to Mexico this year, and I'm building points in Florida, and I'll probably try to cash those in next year for an Osceola. And then my wife even asked me, she's like, "Well, what do you want to do after that?" I said, "Well, we'll still go somewhere every year, and just go somewhere different when maybe we hit 2 or 3 states in the week, or just see what happens." But there's no plans. The U.S. Slam just isn't in the cards yet. But I love the idea of it. I mean, God,
Yeah.
you see more things, and you see some of the things in this country that you would never see unless you were turkey hunting or unless you were hunting. And it's a fantastic way to see our country. You see the prettiest parts of the country being in the woods with a gun over your shoulder.
Yeah.
I think so.
And
I love to
arguably
travel.
some of the
I just don't want to.
yeah, at some of the prettiest times of the year as well. That spring season. I've seen
Mhm.
more sunrises turkey hunting than anything else in my life. It's
Yeah, that's right.
it's a beautiful
Yeah,
thing.
and I up until a few years ago, I'd never traveled. It was just intimidating to me. I didn't know of anybody that growing up that did it. The guys that I knew that traveled and went hunting, went with a guide, or it was like elk season or whatever. They went out elk hunting with a guide, or they did whatever on some big extravagant trip. And it wasn't until a few years ago, and I started watching. I consider myself a student of Dave Owens because I watch that guy. I watch everything that guy puts out. And I started watching these other guys that traveled, and they did it on public land. And I got to thinking about, it doesn't really cost that much to travel if you do it a certain way. One, you can drive, of course, but I travel a lot for work, so maybe my situation is a little different, or a lot different from the average guy. But it doesn't cost me anything to fly anywhere because I build points, from traveling through work. But I think, if you get you a Southwest credit card and you pay that thing off every month, and you can pay your bills with it, you can do whatever with it, just pay it off every month. I was just looking the other day, and you can get a nonstop flight from Nashville to Denver for like 10,000 points. So if you saved up, if you used your credit card, if you and your wife used a credit card all year long, and you spent a little over 1,000, if you spent $1,000 a month on it, bills, I don't know, truck payment, whatever, and you just pay it off every month, boom, you got your flight paid for. And if your buddy does that, if your buddy does the same thing, you're both flying somewhere for free. And then you can split a rental car. So you can get a rental car, like a compact SUV or even a full size pickup for probably $400 or a little less. So if you split that with a buddy, that's $200. You get you a four wheel drive vehicle, knock around in for a week, go camping. That'll cut down on your lodging, food you're going to have to eat anyway. So you don't even have to factor that in. But flying is actually a lot easier than you think. We've carried guns and camp stuff and coolers with us on the plane and not spend a dime on anything. If there's two of you flying, you can have both of your guns in a double gun case. You can have on Southwest, you can have 4 bags for free between 2 people. Yeah. So if they're under 50 pounds, you can have a double gun case. You can have a cooler, and all of our camp gear fit in this. I have this large, it's like a North Face, like heavy duty duffel bag. And so I would cram a tent or sleeping bag, sleeping pad, and just, whatever we would need to sleep in there. So that was another bag. And then you can have another suitcase or just whatever with your vests and whatever other junk you want to carry. And then on top of all that, you each have a carry-on and a backpack.
Yep.
You can carry a lot of crap
Yeah.
on the airplane.
Yeah, you can. You get the carry-on, your personal item, in 2 bags for free when you fly Southwest. I just did that when I went to that hunt with the Chase and Tells guys down in Florida. I took advantage of that. And without that, I could never made it with a flight. I would have been paying a ton of money.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So, but yeah, I realize, I travel a lot and I build points that way. But, when you think about it, 12 months out of the year, and if you're paying like 10,000 points for a flight, that's less than $1,000 a month that you're going to be spending anyway. I'm not saying go spend an extra $1,000 a month on something. But we're hunters, so we do that anyway.
Yeah, right.
Well, hey, I don't know what you're talking about, man. Speak for yourself.
Buy once, cry once. We say that every month, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, this one will last me forever. Next year, I got something new. It's like, son of a bitch.
That's it, man.
Oh man.
Yeah. But
guilty.
It's not hard to say to build up points. With that. A lot of guys, or some guys, are against having a credit card. If you pay it off every month, it's basically a debit card. You're not going to go into debt unless you allow yourself to go into debt. So that's some advice I have. It's a lot easier to travel than people think it is. Even with guns, I mean, you can carry a gun on the plane so long as it's unloaded, and you have your shells in a factory box within that case. It's super easy.
Yeah. I would never have the balls to take a gun onto a plane, just so you know.
Oh man, I find when I'm flying out to North Dakota bird hunting and stuff like that, you gotta fly with your shotgun. I mean, it is what it is. You might find a little piece of paper in your gun case. TSA.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah,
I'd
check it. I would check it in. Yeah, for sure. That's right. But
well, they're
not gonna let you carry it on.
No, I know that, but I'm saying like when I did it with my bow, I was more comfortable for whatever reason checking in a bow, and it's the same thing. But I just was like more comfortable doing that than bringing a shotgun down. I don't know why. It was just a mental thing that I got to get
paranoid
past.
They were gonna like bang up my bow and everything.
Dude, I had a bow case and there was a guy with a freaking AR started just eyeballing me the whole time. I'm like, it's just a bow case, buddy. Calm down. It's locked up with the TSA locks and everything else, and getting eyeballed from behind. My wife's like, "Hey, that guy's watching you." And I was like, "I don't care. I'm too tired to care right now." And he kept getting closer.
I mean, you just like you said, I put all the lock. When I carry just shotgun or rifle or anything, I put the gun locks. I take the bolt out. If it's a shotgun or if it's a rifle, I mean, take the bolt out, like have it just laying there separate, and then have that gun lock, snaked through the bolt, that the chamber there.
Right.
And I just try to make it to where if someone doesn't know anything about guns, that has never seen one in their life, they at least know what a lock looks like.
Yeah.
And that it's going through that chamber and that it's locked, and that there's other parts of this gun scattered about in the case, So, it is, you don't want to treat people that way, but you kind of have to dumb it down. Like, look, this is just an object right now, and here's the ammunition I'm going to use. It's in this box. It's in there too. It's separate, and just try to make it as easy as you can on those people, because if you have the wrong attitude with them people, they just won't let you on the plane. It's simple as that.
It's quite insane.
Don't think that you're above TSA, because they'll just make you stay home. I mean, that's plain and simple. So just make it easier on everybody, and just take a couple extra steps, and make the gun to where it just looks like it ain't gonna do anything.
Yeah.
So traveling's a lot easier than people think. That's short and sweet of it.
That's a fair point. We are driving out to Montana this year, so we're looking at 25 to 28 hours in a vehicle. You really got to like the person you're in the vehicle with for that long. So
there's a reason Jacob's basically the only person I've hunted for weeks at a time with, because we drove out to Nebraska, we drove out to Oklahoma, we flew out to Wyoming, and but he and his dad drove out to Montana when we went deer hunting out there, but I flew because another thing too, another advantage of flying is that saves you a day.
exactly.
Instead of 2 days driving somewhere, you cut that in half, and you get like I left my house on early Saturday morning, and I caught a flight. I think I had a layover in Denver or somewhere, and I landed in Bozeman like around lunch or midday, and I was at camp at like 8 or 9 o'clock or something that night. So within a day, I flew entirely across the country, and I was deer hunting the next morning. So, what's your time worth,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's something to be said about that. It's something where when I grew up, everything we did, any vacation, anything family oriented, we drove. We went to Myrtle Beach, we drove. We went to Florida, we drove.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of got engraved in me when flying was something that I didn't do until I was an adult. Never flew. And it was just like, you make an experience out of the drive itself too, because you're seeing things you've never seen before. We're traveling to Montana. We're going to travel through, 4, 5, 6 different states that I've never even seen or been in before. But like you said, that's, that's 2 full days. I'm talking full days that we're going to be just traveling, and that's if we go straight through. It's just going to be all driving.
Mm-hmm.
So I got some plans for it, but I've also picked some places on the route, in like South Dakota that I've already told them if we get lucky here, we tag out early. There's this real nice looking spot in South Dakota on the way home. We could jump over, hit South Dakota, and just kind of work our way back. But there's always nice to have those plans, and then they all fall apart and go to shit anyways. We did.
Oh, dude, yeah, we've had those plans too. Like when we drive out of Nebraska, or we drove out to Oklahoma, or just wherever. You have all these aspirations, like, I'm going to we can tag out early, and then we can do this and this and this.
Mm-hmm.
And then it turns out you're 5 days into your hunt. You may have killed one, and one bird missed 2 other ones, or something has happened, but you just got to be real. The reality of hunting is you could go across the country and you could come home empty handed.
Right.
That is a very, very big reality that can happen. But just having the drive and being willing to be flexible and increase your opportunities wherever you can, it's more in your favor.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Now, you mentioned before, it was kind of like a little bit of a teaser. You mentioned that you were going down to Mexico to hunt with Jay Scott, and you were going for golds. Now, last year we had Jay Scott on, and we had a whole episode dedicated to golds turkeys. I want you to kind of get into it a little bit, man. Like, how did that trip kind of come about? And, what are kind of your expectations about it? Give us the whole gambit.
Well, I think I booked that hunt last year. I think it was like, the first quarter of last year that I booked this hunt with him, because I know how much, everybody knows Jay Scott, and everybody knows, that he does Gould's turkey hunts. And I just wanted to get on the list and put my name in the hat and just get that hunt going, because I'm guilty of it, and a lot of guys are guilty of it. Tomorrow, I'll do it one day. One day is always, some extravagant day where all these awesome things are going to happen. Well, you need to make that soon and just do it, because you're going to regret it one day if you don't do it. And that's exactly what happened. I'd wanted to always go down there. It's just going to be new country that I hadn't seen. I've been to Mexico a few times for work, but this will be the first time I've been into Mexico on my own personal experience instead of the company's. But yeah, it's just something I wanted to do, and I bit the bullet and did it. It's not that expensive. You pay a deposit, which is half the hunt, and then you pay the other half the next year. So you have basically 2 years to save up for this thing, and you just got to go ahead and do it. Don't be scared. Get you a passport. Jay apparently takes really good care of his hunters. I think we fly into Tucson, Arizona, and then we drive down to, I think the town is called Douglas. I think that's right. We stay at a hotel there, and then the next morning Jay comes and picks us up and takes us across the border, and so he's basically taking care of us, up after that point. So we don't have to worry about taking guns. We're just going to use his guns. You can take your guns into Mexico, but I just think it's the way he described it. It was just a huge ordeal. It's just tedious. It can be done, but it's just a lot. So we're just going to nix that and just use his guns. And we'll hunt for a few days, and then when the hunt's over, he brings us back across the border, and we fly home. So he made it sound pretty simple, and I hope it's that simple. But as far as anything other than that, I have no idea what to expect. This will be entirely new country to me.
Yeah.
So I talked to Billy Yargis a little bit at NWTF, because I had recently seen him pop up in all these videos that he was down there last year or whenever. And so I'd asked him, I was like, hey, what do I need to expect? Is there anything I need to bring, take, not do, whatever? And the one thing he emphasized on was the weather. He said, it is basically the desert. He said it can be, 30 degrees in the morning, and by the middle of the day, it's 80 something degrees, and you're sweating from every orifice and trying to peel off all your clothes. So
Right.
I guess I'll just take every piece of clothing that I own and fill up all my carry-on bags that I just described with different clothing, just in preparation for this thing. But it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
No, absolutely. I've seen a lot of videos of, Jay down there, and then the hunts and like birds beating up the decoys, and the golds are just absolutely incredible birds, man. I'm excited for you. That's gonna be pretty cool.
Yeah. Any videoing going on while you guys are gonna be down there? I know he videos a lot of his own stuff, but
yeah, I think he videos a lot. And my buddy Jacob, he just bought a Tacticam, so we'll see how that works. And one thing I want to talk to Jay about, if he'll let me do it, is we're gonna be hunting down there for, I think we're there for 4 or 5 days. Is seeing if he'll let me try to kill one without a decoy. It was just something I didn't kill one over a decoy last year, and it was just a big deal to me. It was something I tried to wean myself off of. Just another one of those things to try to step my game up. And I'd like to try to do that down in Mexico, because I don't know, every video I see, they're using decoys, and I ain't got a thing against decoys, but it's just something I want to try down there if you'll let me.
Yeah, he's a reasonable guy. I mean, I'm sure he will. I'm sure he's had plenty of people ask him that too, honestly. I mean, you have a lot of guys that they refuse to hunt with decoys. That's just their style of hunting. And
I think when we talked to him too, he had mentioned how a lot of guys that go down there, they basically want to do it their way, more or less.
Yeah.
And he's adapt to it. I mean, he makes his professional suggestion on how to kill birds, because he wants you to get the best out of your trip, of course. But I believe from what he told us was that he was, okay with the demands of other people, as long as it was something that was going to ethically get them a bird.
Yeah.
Then he was cool with it.
Yeah.
But now, do you have any fears? Like you said, you've watched the videos. I've watched the videos. A lot of times it seems like they're just sitting in one spot, calling a lot over a decoy. Do you have fears going in there that, if that's his style and that's how he's super successful, that's the way you guys are going to do it, is that something you're going to not enjoy as much?
Well, I mean, if it's something that if we get to like day 3 or 4 and we haven't had any opportunities of birds, we might just have to do something like that. Now, it's probably not my first choice, because like we've said, I like to move around and I like to cover a lot of ground and do whatever. But at the end of the day, you basically have to take what the turkeys are giving you. And if you're not able to get the job done like you do back home, you're down there to kill a bird. You don't want to just throw that money away because you were too proud to do it
Sure.
a certain way. Kudos to you if you've got the time and money to do something like that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm gonna try to come away with a bird. And I ain't gonna lie about it or beat around the bush about it.
Yeah.
So it may end up we have to do that, but we'll start out doing it the hard way, I guess, and see who gets tired of it first.
Yeah, when you do a trip like that, coming home empty-handed is just not an option.
Yeah.
It's not.
No, it's not.
This is a specialty hunt. This is a once, maybe twice in a lifetime type of deal where, like you said, it's not super expensive, but the more I talk to you and we talk to Jay, it's like, man, I got to do it.
It would be really fun to do
At some
that.
point I got to do it. And like you said, one day.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But it's got to happen.
That one day will sneak up on you, and then that one
Right.
day will be a day that you won't be able to go out there and do it. So get out there and go do it.
Yeah. Heck yeah, man. Well, I'm pretty excited for you for that trip. I think that's going to be a blast. I think you're going to really enjoy it for sure.
I don't want to get away from Mexico real quick. I want to ask one more question. So, do you have any plans in the future to maybe go after the ocellated down in the Yucatan? That's still Mexico. Is that something you're interested in, or is that something you're just kind of like, nah, it's kind of like a peacock bird. It's goofy,
It's like the U.S. Slam. It's in that same camp. I may want to do that one day, but it's just not in the cards right now. I just don't have the interest for it just yet. They do look cool. I would love to go down there and do it one day, but I'm just not that motivated to do it just yet.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the ocellated as we were talking about it because the style, from what I've heard, and I don't know where I've heard it from, but
I know where you're going.
Right, the way they hunt them. I mean, they basically drive around like we were joking about earlier, and they shoot them out the window of a truck or something out of a 8-foot tall tree.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I've heard, and it's like...
I think Jay told us that, honestly.
Think it was Jay.
I think it was Jay, yeah.
It was somebody that I would have trusted their judgment when they told me that, and I was like, ugh, I don't know if I want to do that. Like, this peacock bird,
There's some guys back home, that's what they do anyway, so they maybe they'll feel right at home down there. Right around shooting turkeys out of the tree from the truck. So maybe they'll just be right at home down there.
Oh, power to them, man. Holy smokes.
I'm not opposed to any legal method, and that's kind of what that talk was about, was, you don't have an option sometimes. When you're with the guys down there, those guides, like, that's how they hunt. That's how you're going to hunt. It's not like you're going to argue with someone in their country on how they do things and how they're successful. So, yeah, I don't have any interest there either, but, I'm getting more to... And it's weird. I'm in a weird place to where any hunting I'm doing now has been more like, I need the experience.
Yeah, experience-based.
Yeah. There was last year, we had killed a bunch of birds in Oklahoma, come back, next hunt out, killed a bird with my nephew for his first ever in youth season, and then first day went with our buddy Booer and got a bird. So then it was like, okay, it's my turn to hunt. I'm going to go check out a new property. And I'm sitting there in my truck one morning, and I got all my stuff in my truck. It's always in there. Like, my truck's a mess during hunting season. But I'm sitting in there and basically in pajamas and half asleep. It's raining. And I look up, and there's a whole flock of turkey coming up over the hill, and there's a big gobbler with them. And I see him making this cut to this pass, and I'm like, this would be dead to rights. All I have to do right now is literally throw a jacket on, grab my gun, and because when they went over to this pass, it's down over a hill out of sight, and I'm on top. So all I have to do is run down this tree line and set up in the corner. I know they're going to come right up out of that corner, and all I have to do is wait for them and bushwhack them, kind of like what you were saying. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, that's stupid. That's not the experience I want. I'm by myself. I don't want to do that. So we end up setting up the next morning, me and Geoff, and end up killing him not right off the roost, but 10 minutes off the roost. He come down and made this big show. We got all this video of it, and it was like...
Kind of made a show. You kind of obliterated it.
There was a lot that didn't get on camera. Okay. There was a lot that didn't make it on camera. But yes, it was pretty incredible. Pretty incredible. So it was all about more the experience, I guess, is what I'm saying. Different than just hunting to kill, Yeah.
That kind of goes into, something that I kind of wanted to talk about that, we had mentioned on it we kind of talked about it on the Marco Polo with the Chasing Tails guys, and it's not about it's not about the kill, and we need to showcase that on social media and however we showcase our hunting adventures, because the world is watching. And as much as we like to think that hunting is a right, it is a privilege in my mind, because it can be taken away. And one thing that we talked about last week in all of our discussions was hunter numbers, and either they're declining or they're increasing, or there's that debate, or there's attacks from all sides nowadays, because we're seeing a lot of anti-trapping bills. We're seeing more and more of these state level WMAs like Yanali, and there's one in Mississippi now that's a big topic. I think it's Black Prairie, I think is the name of that one. It's in the same boat. So there's attacks on hunting from all different sides, and we need to be a unified voice in that. We want hunting, obviously want hunting to stay, but we also want that habitat to stay in these WMAs that we have. So it's people want to argue that hunter numbers are decreasing or they're increasing, and I kind of found some data. I don't really know if this data, how really true or accurate this data is, but in 2004, the U.S. population was about roughly 293 million people, and hunters made up 14 million of those, so about 5%. And the next section of data that I found was from 2021, where there was 330 million people. The population increased 14%, in that period of time, and hunters were 15 million. So hunters increased by 1 million, but our percentage within the U.S. population dropped to 4.5%. So it's 6 and 1, half a dozen the other, if you ask me.
Right.
Yeah, the population is increasing, or the hunting population may be increasing, but it's not increasing at the rate that the U.S. population is increasing.
Yeah.
We're losing, our seat at the table is getting smaller and smaller, and in my mind, that makes it easier, for hunting to get taken away. Now, is recruiting more hunters the answer? I don't know, but if we're going to increase hunters, hunter numbers, we need a place for them to go, and I think that ties in with habitat conservation and keeping these WMAs in the public domain to where everyone has access to them instead of a select few. So I don't know what the answer is, as far as either increasing or decreasing hunter numbers, but I know that more public hunting land is never going to be a bad thing.
Right. This conversation, it was actually a really good conversation that we had in that Marco Polo group. And, I chimed in a little bit as well, and I think we were on the same page with it. It's a shame when you look at it, and I based it more in Pennsylvania statistics. Our license sales are decreasing compared to just, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. We were at the height of hunter license sales. And the data that, Walt had brought to the table, well, the actual hunter numbers are going up, but like you're saying, there's a gap, and that gap is growing. There is the fact that the cost of everything is through the roof. I mean, it's no surprise right now what's going on. Inflation is at a 40-year high. Everything costs a lot more money. So when you're trying to maintain and manage land, it costs more to do so. It costs more to pay people, it costs more for fuel, it costs more for seed and whatnot. And the return is not there. Hunters are the biggest number bringing revenue into conservation. Like, we are the biggest percentage, but our numbers are so stagnant, and the price of what we do in the state here, as far as licenses and tags and permits, it's not really gone anywhere. It's been pretty much level across the board, but everything else keeps going up. And at some point, that gap is going to be so large between what we need to maintain good property and good land and open land for people to hunt, and then the price of admission basically to go and enjoy that land. There's going to be too big of a gap there.
Yeah.
And it's a scary thing when you think about, you made it a reality when you said, think about what turkey hunting is going to be 10 years from now. First off, nobody traps around here anymore. Rarely anybody.
I was going to get into that.
So this has been a huge topic, obviously, in the last couple of years. We're noticing turkey numbers are decreasing. The harvest numbers are decreasing. It's getting kind of bad. It's not what it was even when I was hunting at 12, 15, 18 years old compared to now. That's, 12 to 15 years ago. It was totally different. There were so many more birds. And it's something that hits you hard because if you're not doing your part, and there's a lot of people out there that don't, like I said, it's just not a tradition anymore. Trapping is one of the biggest things.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he said. I mean, there's the anti-trapping bills and stuff like that. I know, 30 years ago, all kinds of people trapped around here. I used to trap like a madman. I have no time for it anymore. The fur prices are down. A lot of people don't find any benefit in trapping anymore.
Right.
But you do see, I mean, just from trail cam pictures, the raccoon population out of control. Our coyote population. Granted, there's a pretty big tradition around here of hunting coyotes and stuff, but even that, our coyote population's out of control. Last weekend, I was rabbit hunting. I saw one of the biggest red foxes I've seen in a long time. You used to never see foxes around here. They're all over the place now. It's stuff that, like, nest raiders in general, terrible now. But I mean, and you can attribute it almost all back to people not trapping, or people aren't running coon dogs anymore.
Right.
I mean, that whole kind of generation just kind of fell off with the trapping tradition. It's crazy.
No, I agree with you. And man, those raccoons, they owe me some money because they take up a lot of my pictures on my spy point cameras. That's some damn bullshit right there. All night long, it's like, oh, deer. Nah, a freaking raccoon, man.
Yeah, man.
So they owe me about $250.
Yeah, I remember I've had a camera on a feeder or something every now and then, and those damn coons will be like doing pull-ups up on the feeder, like they're just training and bulking up on those things. But staying on the predation topic, I still think it all boils down to, it all comes back to habitat. If you have proper habitat, your predation is going to be, it's not going to be as successful. That habitat is there. Animals use that habitat for cover. They use it to get away from predators and to hide from predators. So I think if they don't have that, then your predators are going to just waylay everything around there. Now, I'm not saying that you need to stop predator management. No, absolutely. You need to be trapping, this time of year and on up through the beginning of nesting season, and just you may not really lessen the population of raccoons in the area, but you're going to knock a dent in them at the right time of the year where they're not going to have much of an impact. Once turkeys get big enough to fly, and once fawns get big enough to run, pretty good, then, the coyotes and the coons and everything else that eats these things, their success rate plummets, and they switch to other things. So I still think it comes back down to habitat and the education of the general public on what good habitat is. And we've seen in Tennessee, there was, I think it's Bridgestone, Firestone, WMA, the TWRA had planned to clear cut and basically make an old school grassland. What used to be there, they wanted that back instead of the old growth timber. Everybody thinks that timber is real pretty, and it's awesome to see deer come walking down through there towards your stand and everything else. But the fact is that that's not really proper habitat. A lot of us have heard of the tennis ball trick. If you take a tennis ball, and if you can throw it, I don't know how, there may be a certain distance you have to throw it, but if you throw that tennis ball and you can see where it lands and you can see where it's sitting, you don't have good habitat. So take that into consideration. You're in big open timber with nothing on the ground but dead leaves and a giant canopy that's blocking the sun. That's not good wildlife habitat. And I think, especially with that being on public land, we have to maximize the opportunity to create prime habitat. The state, like we were saying earlier, Tennessee is only made up of 10% max of public hunting land, or public land in general. Now, boil that down. Like if you had 100 acres and you could only manage 10% of that, like even if it was like a 10 acre block out of that 100 acres, and that was the best habitat that you could ever do, that you could ever create, it's not really going to make a difference because the other 90% is not prime habitat. And I guess what I'm getting at is I think private land, development and private land habitat loss is a really huge deal. And of course, we need to maximize what we can on public lands, but those farms and everything else that we see, especially where I live, I live probably 30 minutes west of Nashville. Every farm within an hour of Nashville is in danger of getting developed.
Oh,
Now, you can't really blame the landowners. Like, for instance, my dad paid $35,000 for a 180-acre farm and a house back in 1973. And there's no telling.
Couldn't
that
imagine
land now is
what that's worth.
There's no telling what it's worth.
Millions.
But what I'm getting at is,
Yeah.
you have somebody that buys a piece of land 40 or 50 years ago, and then you pay tens of thousands of dollars for the entire thing, and then nowadays somebody comes in and offers you tens of thousands of dollars potentially for 1 acre of it. The wheels start turning in that guy's head. You can't blame the guy.
No, that's
But-
life-altering money. People that have most likely struggled their entire lives through that generation. You got big dollar signs that come in. It's they're probably around retirement age. It's just like, you know what, I can go and retire on this money, never have to worry about it ever again. And I wouldn't blame them if they did it. Like you said, you can't blame them. It depends how proud you are, but I don't know how many people are going to deny something like that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
tough.
it's, and, I'm a landowner. I own that farm now, the one I just talked about. Dad kind of turned that over to me, several years ago. But it's in my name, and I have the power to sell that thing if I wanted to. But, it's a bigger deal, and I think we really think it is, or really see. If you take a ride around anywhere, you can see anywhere where there's a farm getting sold off or it's getting developed or a new subdivision is going in.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that every farm is great habitat, but I tell you what, a bean field is probably better than a parking lot. So,
Well, I'll tell you,
it's
anybody that's local to us here, you'll know when I say Cranberry Township or Wexford. These areas, Joey, they're, maybe 20 to 30 minutes outside of the city of Pittsburgh. 15 years ago, they were all cornfields and rolling pastures. Today, they're all housing developments, businesses. It's all commercialized, and it's insane how quickly that happens. But it goes back to the first point you made, where the population is increasing at a much higher number, and we need places to put people.
Yeah.
And the hunter number isn't increasing either. So it's not like there's a bigger need for land for hunters than there is housing and people making money, lining their pockets. And it's definitely a worrisome thing. And I'd be very worried about it in Nashville, the way Nashville's been blowing up lately too, with the import of people coming into Nashville from other states with everything going on. And
I can think about, like, around here, like he was just talking about that tennis ball trick. Most of our general area here, I bet you could throw that tennis ball and you would see it. Our public land, our private land, honestly, a vast majority of it could probably use a good controlled burn and really bring back some of those native grasses and everything. Like when you were talking about that leaf cover and that tall canopy and that old stand timber, and most of the places that I hunt, that's a vast majority of what it is. And granted, you do have some places where, like, the Pennsylvania Game Commission has tried to do some timber management, and they do the controlled burns, and they might take out some autumn olive to protect this owl species or or whatever. They do some goofy stuff. I don't know. I don't think that they have their priorities right for certain things, but I can think, like, if they've been talking more and more about how our turkey population is going down, I wish they would kind of focus more of their efforts.
Turn it from pheasants to turkey.
Turn it from pheasants to turkey. We're not a pheasant state. Like, what the hell?
Pheasant's the big focus anymore. They come up with a pheasant stamp, and they put all that money towards creating good. And the positive about this is, if you create good habitat for pheasant, you're creating good habitats for turkeys and other bird species as well.
Essentially, yeah. But
it's typically that type of stuff that the grassy fields and whatever they're planting. But it's not big enough. It's not enough. And to go off your point, Joey, about
the tennis ball, like Austin just mentioned, think about this, Austin. When we were kids, I'd go up to the mountains and we'd stay at a place called Clear Creek State Park. And when you drove through that park, you would see 80 to 100 deer in the park where all the grass and everything was. There was open area. There was actual things that were growing what they were feeding on. You drove through the woods of that park, there wasn't anything green, anything in the radius of which a deer could reach. So you're talking, 8 feet up the trees. There's not even a branch. They've nibbled it all off and everything on the ground. And it got to a point where our deer numbers were decreasing pretty badly. And I think I would blame the management of the land and the conservation and whatnot on why our deer population started to decrease so quickly.
Mhm.
Yeah, they started giving out more tags and whatnot, but honestly, it was more or less they didn't have what they needed to survive. Now, there's a company and a lot of logging companies local to that area that start logging, start cutting areas, which brought back this deer herd. Like
Oh, yeah.
where my camp is, if it wasn't for cutting,
Yeah, they do selective cuts yearly, just bouncing
Right.
back and forth, and it's bringing in some serious vegetation and cover, and you get one of those slashes, it's crazy, man.
yeah. Now you talk about that area, and then you talk about 30 minutes to the west or east potentially, and there's people that still talk about how their populations are terrible, and
Yep.
it's that big woods, no vegetation that's doing it. In my opinion, that's part of it. So that got my brain moving. The other thing I got to mention though, I would love to see happen. You see these, you mentioned it, Austin, these coyote tournaments and these, which are huge events. Hundreds of coyotes are killed. And I almost went on when I saw a post because I got some good buddies that run dogs and run coyotes real hardcore. I almost went on and posted on there. I would love to see this for a raccoon and possum tournament.
Yeah.
I actually want to start. I want to do something. Maybe with this platform we can do it, but I want to do something where it's a raccoon tournament where you pow up a bunch of raccoons like this time of year and going into the spring, like you said, just before turkey season, hold this like month long or couple weekends tournaments and do the same thing they do with coyotes.
Check your regs, because I think our fur bearer season just went out.
Really?
Yeah, I do. So you got to do a little bit earlier, but I mean, even leading up to it, take the population down a little bit, it'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I would have to look into that, but
Mhm.
I want to do something like that. I think that can make a huge difference,
That'd be awesome.
you know?
It would be awesome. Joey, what do you have on your mind? What's something that you're trying to get out right now?
So, again, I think it goes back to, having that proper habitat and everything else and getting the word out of what good habitat is. And I think we touched on it, Charles, last week when we were chatting a little bit that, maybe this habitat issue is something that we can unite more people on, not just hunters, but, even, the environmentalists, we all want good habitat, regardless of what happens after that habitat is established, whether we hunt it or hike it or whatever. I think we need to, focus in on what we agree on first, and then we can do battle later, so to speak. And the perception of hunting, you mentioned doing those tournaments. I'm all in favor of them. I would just be careful about it because the pictures that you saw of those tournaments are going to be on a PETA ad one day.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we're already getting heat on that in this state and all over with the coyote tournaments. So yeah, I know there's a fine line to be walked there for sure.
Yeah, and we've already said that hunters are outnumbered, and I found some more data that was pretty interesting, and it's actually kind of scary. And it was the number of vegans and vegetarians in the United States, which you don't really think about, or I never really did before. But I found this in 2016, vegans were 0.5% of the U.S. population, so just around 1.6 million, which isn't a lot. But in 2020, they were 6% of the population.
Wow.
Oh man.
They're about 19.7 million now.
So
Those just vegan.
So you're saying the vegans
Now-
are eating all of the deer and turkey vegetation?
No, but what I'm saying is
Kidding.
19.7 vegans, 19.7 million vegans get united on something versus
Yeah.
15 million hunters.
That's a lot of people that don't want
that's
animals
that's not
injured.
good odds for us.
We've quickly been
And
outnumbered.
then, and then vegetarians, they're about 8% of the U.S. population. So they're about 26.5 million, 26.4. Now, again, I'm not trying to say that all of those people are our enemies, but they're not going to be the ones. They're not showing up at these, commission meetings and everything else fighting for habitat. And I think they could be, because, like I said, that's something we can focus on from both sides of the table, is focus on that habitat, and maybe not so much get those guys in the game, as in, them paying fees for use of public areas or whatever else, but we can still get the word out on proper habitat, regardless if they're vegan, vegetarian, hunter, carnivore, or whatever. That's something we can unite on and really help wildlife everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Those numbers are staggering, man. That is actually really scary. You know,
Yeah.
you said you mentioned like maybe not all those people are our enemies, but I gotta be honest, I don't know that any of those vegans are hunters, or have you ever met a vegan hunter?
No, but it doesn't mean they oppose hunting either,
Yeah,
right?
but I mean, I
Yeah.
generally
Now,
you would think that
generally
they're
they
probably
are-
against harming any animals, or
Well, let's put it this way, though, and this goes to be said about anything. When you look at it, where the smaller percentage of that population is extremely radical and loud,
Mhm.
that's how you portray the entire population,
Yeah,
right? And
right.
that can be said about anything across the board. A couple bad hunters put a bad name on the entire hunting population, just the same as bad vegetarians or vegans. So you don't know.
That's true.
But by the simple fact that they don't consume meat or any product that comes from an animal, I'm guessing they probably don't 100% support the management of animals unless they understand and are educated, like Joey's mentioning here. What we have to do as hunters and as conservationists, I guess, we have to find that common ground. How can we portray what we want to do and our goals and making better habitat to be a benefit to vegans or vegetarians or animal lovers? That's where it gets tricky, but there's common benefits for us and them, is what he's mentioning here.
Yeah.
And we just need to portray the message. We need somebody, a big name, to portray that message in a wider span to get some of those people, some of that percentage on our side.
Yeah, you almost have to play devil's advocate to kind of understand both sides and,
Yeah.
be able to, properly portray what you're trying to get across. I mean, just even understanding from their perspective, I mean, it's difficult, but you have to understand their perspective to even get your point across to them too. I mean,
But think about it.
effectively, at
There's
least.
got to be plants out there that are dying, that are becoming extinct, which there are certain animals that are included in that plant that will go extinct with it. Let's put for example, the monarch butterfly, right? If we don't have good property that's producing milkweed for the monarch butterflies are going to not benefit from it, right? So they're going to be harmed by the fact that there's something out there in it. And that's just an example, but I think where we can realign and find common ground is what's out there that with good proper habitat helps the population of that animal.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about turkeys, if we get the point across that, hey, good habitat will make more turkeys, it will help poults survive. And you put some of the real numbers out there of what some of the predators do to turkeys. You put those numbers out there and you put it in front of somebody's face and say, hey, if we do this simple thing and we raise money to do just this one thing, and whether it's burns or whatnot, we could save 100,000 turkeys' lives next year alone. Is that enough? You think that's enough?
It's a great question.
I don't know.
I mean, it's negotiating 101. Finding that common ground where both parties take something away from the table is going to benefit them. If we come to these, we'll just keep vegans and vegetarians or whatever, just as an example. If we come to the table and just start bashing those guys and degrading their way of life, then we're not going to get anywhere. Now, I'm not saying anything, go quit hunting or anything like that, I guess. But, we have to focus on that common ground and the perception of, I think that's why the perception of hunting is so important. And it goes back to, to those pictures of the tournaments or whatever. If we showcase our hunting livelihood on social media in a respectable way, that, if I'm pretty confident that the pictures I have on social media are not going to end up in an anti-hunting ad one day. And I think there's a lot of hunters out there that probably can't say the same thing. And maybe everybody needs to ask themselves that,
Right.
what am I showing the non-hunting world what hunting really is, and how do they perceive it? Are they going to see a beat, bloodied, shot up, no telling what on the back of a tailgate? Or are you going to showcase like, hey, I took this bird, I worked my ass off to get in this bird's element, and I beat him at his own game, and now I'm going to take him home and eat him. I'm going to preserve his feathers or his body or whatever, and I have these memories with my best friend that are going to last me forever, that I'll remember in 50 years. And the list goes on and on and on. And I just think that we as hunters can be our own worst enemy, in that we show the world sometimes the worst side of hunting or the bad side of hunting, when we need to show them like, hey, we care about this earth, we care about these animals. Yeah, we take their lives and we eat and everything else, but we want them to be around for our grandkids to do the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And I think you do have a point there that a lot of people do kind of show the bad side of hunting, totally unintentionally, but I mean, I kind of feel the same way. If you look on my Facebook page or anything like that, I don't try and show people, the bad side of it, but
Yeah.
Well,
I think when I was younger and I was probably, maybe a little more ignorant or naive, that you may have seen something like that. But in all honesty, it's nothing that would ever go against respect for the animal,
right.
And respect for the game in which you chase. But the old school stubborn ass attitude that I don't care what a vegan thinks doesn't work anymore.
No, you need
Because-
to be more cognizant
Mhm.
of everything that you're doing.
Yeah, in today's world, you have to be. It's unfortunate, but you have to be. If you want to get anything done and you want to help your own cause, you have to see it through someone else's eyes, unfortunately.
Mhm.
And yes, I would agree. Nobody wants to see a pile of 200 coyotes piled up. It's not a good look. You can make a post if you want that it was a very successful weekend. Here's your winners, whatever. That's great. But the picture doesn't need to happen. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but the laying down beside an animal picture,
You won't catch me doing that.
I cannot stand it. That needs to go away. It needs to never come back. It should have never been a thing. But that's that attitude where, people are putting that PETA filter over top of something like that. And it's just like, you guys aren't helping, but in Pennsylvania especially, we have a lot of them guys around here because it's a deep-rooted, very traditional state, and there's a lot of old school tactics and old school way of thinking still alive today.
Oh yeah, they're set in their ways, and there's no changing them, and that's to a detriment too, because you're not gonna show them the perspective that they need to be a fighter for you. But it's just kind of, I don't know, that's a difficult topic to tackle.
But in the same sense too, you have guys on social medias that are outdoorsmen, and they're supposed to be hunters, but yet they're purposely going out and finding these types of pictures and calling people out and bringing it to light.
Yeah.
And all they're doing is giving the same fuel or same ammo to these groups like PETA.
Yep, absolutely.
Just doesn't need to be done. It can be done in a more discreet manner.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's some things you send to your buddies, and then there's some things you post on social media.
absolutely.
Yeah, if I shoot a turkey at 10 yards and the wad goes through his head, I'm not going to post it on social media, but I'll probably show my buddy. I'm like, look how crazy! Look what just happened. That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
But, I'm not going to put that on the web for 300 million people to see.
I get it, man. I get it
do.
totally.
Yeah.
It's a fine line that we walk. It's a tough line, but
Yeah. Do you have any more statistics, Joey? I'm just curious. All this.
No, I think that was it. The ones that just kind of caught my eye that I've kind of thought about when we talked last week about hunter numbers and how they stack up against the rest of the population. Those numbers really drive home the fact that there's, we're what I say, like 5% of the population, if that. Maybe we could be generous and say that maybe there's some things we don't account, or that these statistics don't account for. And maybe we could be generous and say that we're maybe a little less than 10 or something. I don't know, something like that. But regardless, there's at least 90 to 95% of the rest of the population that don't do what we do and that have a vast impact on whether we get to do that or not.
Yeah.
Whether we think that or not. You know, what's 15 million what's 14 or 15 million versus another 300 something million.
Right.
The non-hunting voters have a huge impact on whether or not we get to hunt this spring or tomorrow or 5 years from now or 10 years from now. And we just need to be sure that we're doing all that we can to move hunting forward instead of just, you know, staying where we're at or regressing. We continuously have to be working to promote hunting in a positive way.
Yeah. It's the reason why we still don't have full Sunday hunting in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it has to go through hands of people that are not involved in what we do. But going back to what we've just covered, I mean, if you make a positive impact on somebody that doesn't hunt and you portray yourself in a positive manner, when it comes down to it and the vote comes down to it, that person might vote on your side because they know you, they know who you are, they know what kind of person you are, and they know why you do it. And if you can have an intelligent conversation with those kind of people, that means the world to what our chances are moving forward. And, you know, we have people that we have friends where every year we donate them a deer if we can because they don't hunt. But guess what? Their whole family will support hunting one day if it ever comes down to it.
Absolutely.
Because they understand it. They understand why we do it, and they appreciate the meat. And, you know, that's just one thing that you can do.
Yeah, one more step in the right direction, man.
Yeah, food. Yeah. Food is one common ground.
Absolutely.
That we can, not with the vegans and vegetarians, unfortunately, that we talked about, but it's a common ground you can find with the other 85% of people that aren't vegan or vegetarian, it seems. So,
well, speaking of all the vegans and vegetarians, it makes me hungry for turkey.
Heck yeah, man.
Joey, with all the turkeys that you've killed, and I'm sure you know, being all over the U.S. and stuff like that, you probably had a couple different recipes that you've tried. Do you have a favorite turkey recipe? I'm taking a very hard right turn here, but
no, it's all right.
Is there one that you give a go-to, or one that you kind of like want to try? Or
I mean, one thing that I do almost every year with a couple turkeys or whatever is I grind them into turkey burger because my wife likes it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you bought ground turkey in the store lately. That stuffs up like
terrible.
The price of beef anymore. So, you know, and that's another way, you know, if your wife's not really big into eating wild game, maybe grind her up some turkey burger with some, I don't know, you can use bacon or whatever as some fat or pork fat or whatever if you got it. But anyway, you know, she's going to be buying that stuff anyway. You might as well try to, you know, introduce her to wild game or introduce somebody else to wild game via that way. Or another way I like to do it, and we grew up eating the turkey breast this way, and we would just slice it across a grain and either beat it with a tenderizing hammer or send it through a tenderizer if you got one. And I think Meat Eater just put out a recipe for it not long ago. They call it schnitzel, but we just called it tenderized turkey breast, and we would just batter it with flour and fry it, and it would be, I mean, it almost tastes like pork at that point. You know, it was just white meat.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you can bake turkey breast in Italian dressing. Just put it in a roasting pan with the lid and cover it with Italian dressing and roast it that way. Or you can slow cook the legs and thighs and pull the meat and use for 200 different recipes that involve any kind of pulled meat.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all you can do. And I think I'm going to take it a step further this year. I might try to save the bones out of one of my turkeys and roast them or smoke them and then make some stock.
Yeah.
Because again, my wife buys oodles of chicken stock, so I might try my hand at that.
I don't blame you.
And she can't eat a BB, you know, with turkey stock, so I got that going for me.
Yeah, totally, man. Totally. Have you ever ventured into a thing known as a gobblerito? This is one of Charles's favorite things.
That's a real thing.
I think I need to hear more about this.
Okay, yeah, it is. It is my all-time favorite come Thanksgiving time. There's a Mexican restaurant around here that does a gobblerito. It is a giant, massive, oversized burrito in which they put turkey breast meat in, stuffing, corn, mashed potatoes, and then they pack it all into this giant, oversized burrito. Basically an entire Thanksgiving dinner in a burrito. Cover it with gravy,
and then serve it with cranberry sauce on the side.
Yeah.
And man, I tell you right now that if that ain't the best damn thing on this planet, and why have I never done that myself? I have no idea. But as soon as he said Gallarito, my mouth started watering.
Yeah, man.
It's
I
phenomenal.
might need to get that recipe.
Yeah. I'm telling you, just whatever you do for Thanksgiving, your normal Thanksgiving dinner, make all of that stuff and put it in a burrito.
Yeah.
There you go.
Solid.
Oh, there's beans in there too, actually. Yeah. So it's
All the major food groups just wrapped up in a little cozy package
Yeah,
right
man.
there.
exactly. I'm more of a grill them and put them into like tacos or something like that. I love that, man.
Yeah.
I love fried turkey. That's just
Yeah.
kind of like making nuggets out of
really?
them, out of the breast, or, I even
Mhm.
like butterflying a breast out and kind of pounding out like you were talking about. But then I kind of make like a roll teeny, just doing like some stuffing, make some mashed potatoes on the side, gravy, bacon in the oven. It's pretty
Nice.
awesome.
I don't even know what
Nice.
schnitzel is, I'll be honest, but sounds super German. Is it a
It
German?
is. Yeah, it's just like they use pork like he
Yeah,
was talking about.
it's,
It kind of tastes like pork, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've heard of people doing it a lot with pork tenderloin or
Yeah.
backstrap or whatever, and they would take the same principle. They would take pork tenderloin, slice it, and then beat it pretty thin where it was almost crispy when you fried it,
Mm.
and that's how they would do it. And I think that's basically how Meat Eater says to do it too. Just beat it pretty thin and maybe batter it with panko breadcrumbs or
Toss
flour.
a little
or
flour,
whatever.
yeah. Just shallow fry. Yeah,
That
it's good.
sounds so damn
It's
good.
good. It's good.
Yeah.
It's a big
It's
flat
good, man.
nugget, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what do you eat that
Yeah.
with? Like, what is some of the side dishes that would go with that meal?
Whatever you want. Make macaroni and cheese or potatoes or something like that. Most people just kind of like dip it in ketchup like chicken fingers.
What?
I'm serious.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or you can go to the grocery store and you can get you a bottle of Chick-fil-A sauce. Nowadays.
Fire.
Yeah.
I have 2 at home.
Or
Just
at
so
least
you
you
know.
At least you can down here in the South. I don't know how they treat y'all up there, but
Oh,
man,
no.
we got Chick-fil-A everywhere we can get it around here.
Yeah.
We got to drive about 35 minutes to get
that's-
Chick-fil-A.
That last time my wife came home with Chick-fil-A, and she surprised me. She had 2 of the bottles, and they're in one for her, one for
Yeah.
me.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, we love it. I'm a condiment person, man. I have it all.
Yeah.
Every condiment you can imagine. I love it.
Charles here is our resident ranch dressing expert.
Yes, self-pronounced
Nice.
ranch dressing expert. I've had
Yeah.
pretty much everything from chocolate pudding to
Oh my God.
to bologna with ranch
Oh,
to
my.
find what didn't taste good with ranch, and bologna was the one thing.
Very different.
So, fun fact. Man, that is good. That is good stuff. And there's so much more we want to talk to you about. I'm sure we're way up on time.
We are, but I don't even mind. It's been a great episode.
I don't care at all.
I have one thing in mind that I want to cover, but if you have anything, you let me know.
I just wanted to cover real quick, like the NWTF convention, because we were both down there. You went on a weekday wisely, but what'd you think about the convention? You've obviously been to more than one. You live very close to Nashville. So
Yeah.
what do you think about this year compared to prior years, and the entire convention as itself? What do you think about it?
Over the years, like you said, I think I've been to every one that was in Nashville since like 2003. Whenever I got my driver's license, every year after that, except for I think for the couple of years that I lived up here, in Virginia or Maryland, I didn't go those years, but every other year I'd been. It seemed like, I don't know, the one thing I did notice, there was a bunch of apparel and T-shirt companies there. I don't know if you noticed that, but it seemed like every aisle had a couple of guys or a couple of companies that just had a booth for T-shirts, and they were selling merch or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I don't care what people do. It was just something I noticed, but I really enjoyed it. Like you said, I went on a Thursday. I took the day off and I went on that day because I kind of vowed to myself I was never going to go on a Saturday ever again because of the sea of people that is always there on a Saturday. And but I liked it because I went and I saw Dave Owens. I chatted with him for a little bit. Who else did I see? A couple other guys that have podcasts. I talked to them. Met Cuz Strickland. Talked to him for a few minutes. So I liked it because I was able to talk to these people for a few minutes rather than standing in line, shaking their hand, and going about my way. I could actually have a conversation with these people. And I think I think what separated this convention versus, even before 2020, that was the last convention because we didn't have one last year. But before then, I hadn't really connected with that many people via social media like other hunters. In the last handful of years, with YouTube and,
Yep.
podcasts are a dime a dozen, these days, no offense. Hey, I got a podcast too. Add 10 Gallons Concrete podcast.
No offense taken, man.
Cheap pop right there.
Hold on. Shout that out again.
Add 10 Gallons Concrete podcast. So
There you go.
if anybody's in the concrete industry, you know what add 10 gallons means when a concrete truck rolls up to the job site. But so yeah, go search us out if you like hearing about concrete and all kinds of construction shenanigans.
There you go.
But again, everybody's got podcasts now. A bunch of people are on YouTube. There's all these ways we could connect with people via social media. And it used to be I would just go to the show and I'd walk around and I might see Will Primos or Michael Waddell, and I'd have to stand in line and I'd shake their hand and that would be it. But now that I know guys like you, I know the Southern Outdoorsman, I know Dave Owens, I can hang out and talk to some of these other people. I went to the Primos booth. I saw, Lake Pickle and Jordan, and I talked to those guys for a couple minutes. And I think what separates this convention versus the ones in the past is just being able to go up to people and just, you talk to people you haven't seen in person before and, connect with them. And it was just a lot better. I really, really enjoyed it and can't wait for next year again.
Yeah, I can vouch for that. We went to the Great American Outdoor Show over here in Harrisburg, and that show is unfreaking believable. I went opening day. It is packed. Like, it's unreal how big that place is and how packed it gets. So when I went to the convention in Nashville, the first thing that stood out to me was, man, this is small. It's basically like one room. And I got to talking to one guy down there, John Collins. He's a predator hunter and freaking dude, just a killer, coyote killer, from Kentucky. The guy's awesome. And I got to talk to him about it a little bit, and he was at both shows as well. And I mentioned to him, I was like, yeah, it's busy, but compared to the other show, it's not really that bad. He's like, well, you could put this show in one little corner of that show, size wise. But it was extremely busy to the point where, yes, I saw Dave Owens. There's 3 or 4 guys around him. I felt like I would be more of an inconvenience at that point to try to go over and strike up a conversation, right? So I didn't really get to talk to a lot of people that I wanted to when I went down there. But, it was still really cool. An amazing experience. I don't regret it at all. I plan to go hopefully every year from here on out. But maybe plan for a Thursday or Friday instead of a Saturday, like you said, because there were just droves of people. I got there probably 10 o'clock. This is how crazy it is there. I had to mark my parking spot on my my hunting app because just to find my car again when I come back out, because the parking lot is giant and it's not labeled. It's not like row K or row F. It's just a giant open parking lot. And I'm like, I'm marking this on my map right now. And it came in use when I tried to find my car later on. So there's a pro tip for you if you end up showing up at the show at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. But I'll tell you, it was busy up until about 4 p.m. And it was still pretty busy. It was pretty cool, man. I had a really good experience down there. I did notice there was a lot of vendors down there. Funny enough, the Pennsylvania Game Commission was down there.
It's so strange to me.
How crazy is that? And it's wild. I was thinking as I passed the Tennessee booth in your guys' wildlife conservation, whatever they're called, I passed their booth and I was thinking, we're so close to like Kentucky. All these places should be down here. Like they should be here at this show talking to people. Because it's at that show where you're going to hear the stuff we just covered over the last hour.
Yeah.
And get good ideas and get good feedback from the people that are actually out there doing the turkey hunting and seeing the numbers and the population either decline or incline and increase, whatever. So it's like that's the people that I think I was very proud to see Pennsylvania Game Commission down there with a huge booth.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and all they were doing the whole time, all they were really doing was handing out free stickers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Whatever. They showed some presents.
But that's all I wanted to cover. If you got one more thing you want to talk about, Austin.
I just want to hear like an absolutely amazing turkey story. I want to hear Joey's favorite turkey
Do
story.
you want to save it?
Do we?
Do you want to save it for the Campfire Fridays?
You know what? I do.
Okay.
I do.
Do that.
We'll do that.
All right. So you guys got to tune into a Campfire Friday episode to catch the rest of this one.
Yeah. I
How
like it.
about
I like the suspense.
All right. So, Joey, anything else you wanted to cover, man? Anything we talked about? Anything you didn't want to miss that you may have noted down on your end?
I can't think of anything, man. I really
Okay.
appreciate the discussion. I don't care, how long we. Like I said, I'm on the road, so I can talk all night if we want to, and I think we could if we really wanted to. But man, I really enjoyed the conversation and everything we talked about. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Absolutely, man. We appreciate you taking time out of your night. I know you're on the road and you're probably bored sitting in your hotel room, but we do appreciate you coming on
And we
and
enjoyed
hanging
it
out
as
with
well,
us.
man.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, thank you. Appreciate you coming on, and can't say enough good stuff, man. That was very, very good conversation. So we appreciate you asking the right questions and kind of putting it back on some really good topics.
Yeah. But before we let you go,
Yeah.
can you shout out and kind of tell everybody where they can find you or, social media, all that fun stuff?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, just regular old Joey Bell on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram at Reverend434. I'm on there if you ever want to chat turkeys, and I can tell you about all my failures. I'll be happy to tell them to you.
Very cool, man. Very cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thanks again. We'll see you again on the Campfire Friday episode here.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. All right.